Welcome in to 20 Minutes to Overtime. I'm your host, Jordan Smith. This is episode 1. It's Monday, February 22nd. Let's talk about hockey. The idea of this show is I'm going to shoot the shit about hockey for 20 minutes, and I'm hoping that I can grow this YouTube channel. I have an Instagram, going to be a podcast, and I'm really happy for anyone tuning in right now. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to just do this. It's kind of a hobby of mine. I spend every night watching hockey. Might as well try and do something with my knowledge, and hope you guys enjoy. I'm going to just talk about what's going on in the NHL, maybe a little bit of gambling advice. I'm going to stay away from fantasy hockey. I do love it, but just strictly talking hockey. If a network wants to pick me up, I'm yours to hire. This is going to be a PTI-based show, if you've ever seen PTI. It's kind of just talking about sports for 23 minutes. This is exactly that. I'm going to talk about sports for 20 minutes. The buzzer's going to go off here. And I'm going to have a little overtime round. Overtime's going to be different every day. The topics are going to be different every day. I hope I can bring some bold new takes and some hot takes that people can argue with or tell me I'm dumb. Doesn't matter. I love the feedback. If you follow this, if you're watching this, please click the subscribe on YouTube channel. If you're not a hockey fan, subscribe anyways. I appreciate it. And if you are a hockey fan, also subscribe and click notifications. You get a notification every time I post a new video. I look forward to posting 3 to 5 videos a week. And if you can follow me on Instagram as well, it's 20 minutes to overtime, period in between each spot instead of the spaces. So thanks very much. Thanks in advance. Give me a follow, give me a subscribe, and I appreciate you tuning in. Let's talk about what happened this weekend. First things first is the Lake Tahoe games. 2 outdoor games this weekend based in Lake Tahoe, which is on the border of Nevada and California. These games were actually played in Nevada, and the games were played on the 18th fairway of Edgewood Tahoe Resort. So beautiful scenery, played on a golf course. What more can you ask for on a Saturday, Sunday day? If you didn't know, Lake Tahoe is the 6th largest lake in North America, right behind the 5 Great Lakes. And it was a spectacular scene. It's surrounded by mountains, snow on the mountains, snow on the golf course. Unfortunately, it's California and Nevada, so the first game, Saturday, they tried getting started at about noon, and the ice couldn't hold up. The hot sun was beaten down, the ice was pretty shitty, made for some good bloopers. Referees falling over, players losing an edge, falling over. Colorado went up 1-0 when they went into the intermission. Forgot to mention it was Colorado and Vegas playing on the Saturday. And commentators hinted that the game could be postponed later that day, into the next day even. Luckily enough, Gary Bettman came on. He said the game was going to be postponed till later that night. 9 o'clock their time, or 12 o'clock Eastern if you're in that Eastern time zone. Maybe you didn't get to stay up to watch the game. You did miss a pretty good game because obviously Colorado and Vegas are 2 cup contenders, and they went at it. It was a tight game. It was a 1-goal game. Colorado ended up winning 3-2 on the back of a Nathan MacKinnon goal and an assist. Great commentary. Nathan MacKinnon grabs the puck in his offensive zone. He's skating through the neutral zone, and Alex Pietrangelo mic'd up goes, "Oh damn!" And then Nathan MacKinnon rips one, and what do you know? It's one of the best players in the world coming down your wing. You don't love to see it. So 3-2 Colorado in that game on Saturday. And Sunday we had Boston and Philadelphia go at it. And these guys came out buzzing. They pushed the game a little later in the afternoon, get a good meal in you, and bam, high-scoring first period. It's 2-2 at the end of the first period. Pasternak opened the scoring 35 seconds into the game, and then Philly answered twice. Boston gets one back. We're tied going into the second period. Sun's going behind the mountains, shaping up to be a beautiful game. Fortunately not the case. Boston came out, slammed Philadelphia. They win the second period 4-0. Pasternak scores a second. It's 6-2 going into the third. We don't have much of a hockey game, but at least the scenery is beautiful. To finish off the third period, Philadelphia added one more goal, and then Pasternak completed his hat-trick, scoring just the second hat-trick in outdoor games ever. I believe Tyler Toffoli did it a couple years ago, but Boston 7, Philadelphia 3. Wasn't much of a game. Great outdoor event. Should talk about Sidney Crosby, one of the NHL's greatest. He got to play in his 1,000th game this weekend. And it was awesome. It was a good game. Pittsburgh won 3-2. They were facing the New York Islanders. Good defensive team, low scoring game, 5 goals. It's kind of what you expect to see with the Islanders playing. Sidney Crosby, of course, gets 2 assists, just like the fashion he does, on 2 Letang goals. One of them was Crosby to Malkin to Letang on the power play. I don't know how many times those 3 have combined for 2 assists and a goal on a power play goal, but it was just awesome to see in his 1,000th game. You also got to see all his teammates wear the 87 jersey, come out on ice with him in warm-ups, and they did his routine, tied their skates like he does, and it was just awesome to see. Sidney Crosby, obviously a pretty superstitious guy. But let me read you his resume through 1,000 games, and still got some years in him. But through 1,000 games, he has 468 goals, 810 assists. He's an 8 times All-Star, 3 Stanley Cups, 3 Ted Lindsay Awards, 2 Hart Trophies, 2 Rocket Richards, 2 Art Rosses, 2 Conn Smythes, 1 Messier, couple gold medals. What an NHL career this guy's had. There were some posts online. Is he a top 5 guy all time? I gotta put him top 5 all time. I don't know who you put over him. Obviously, there's a few obvious ones like Wayne Gretzky, Lemieux, and then Gordie Howe maybe, and a couple other guys. But I do think he's a top 5 all time. He's been a generational player. He's really grown the game. Him and Ovechkin coming into the league together and just going back and forth throughout the years has been such an entertaining thing to watch. And I think they both still got 5 more years at least in them. They could play into their 40s. Sidney Crosby's game is not going anywhere. He's one of the best to do it. I'm happy to see him play 1,000 games, especially when early in his career he had those concussion issues. You never know if he'd get to this mark, but he did. He hasn't been injured at all in the last couple of years. And it's just really great to see the best ever kind of do it, you know? Not the best ever, maybe, but best in my generation. Best hockey player I've seen. He's brought some special moments to me, I know. I remember his game-winning gold medal goal and a couple of those Stanley Cups. Definitely a great player. I should mention that Travis Zajac also hit 1,000 games this weekend. 1,000 games is a heck of an accomplishment in the NHL. A lot more guys are doing it these days. Maybe it was more of an accomplishment back in the day. I think a lot of players can get to 1,000 games this time around. People are just healthier, conditioning's better, but lovely to see. Going forward, though, you know, Sidney Crosby's 33 years old, and some new younger players are stealing his stardom, starting with McDavid. I think McDavid has taken over as the unanimous best player in the NHL, and he really proved it this weekend. He had himself a weekend. Friday night, he actually got shut out, but his Edmonton Oilers still beat the Calgary Flames 2-1. The Battle of Alberta, they go back-to-back. They play again on Saturday, and you can't keep McDavid off the scoreboard twice. He gets himself a natural hat trick, adds 2 assists for a nice 5-point night. His 37 points leads the league. The guy's on another level. There's no one that really quite compares with him. But if you were going to argue anyone, it's probably the guy scoring more goals than him, same division. Austin Matthews had himself a night. Montreal versus Toronto, always a classic game to go see. Matthews pots himself 2 goals, 2 assists for a nice 4-point night. He's got himself a 16-game point streak. His 18 goals lead the league. Just stardom. And I didn't even mention, you know, McKinnon had himself a good day. Pasternak had a hat trick. These guys showed up in the outdoor game. These young guys aren't even 26 years old yet. They're paving the way. Someone else that I should talk about, Pierre-Luc Dubois, right? Not quite on their level, but it was nice to see Sunday night. He got himself on the board with Winnipeg for the first time. He scores his first goal with the Winnipeg Jets to open the scoring for Winnipeg, and then later on in the game, he pots the overtime winner. Always good to get that little bump from your teammates when you can score an overtime winner. Just walked around Brock Besser, you know, that's why forwards don't play defense, but when you're playing 3-on-3 overtime and your forward's back on D, it happens, right? But Good job, Pierre-Luc Dubois. Nice to see him scoring goals in Winnipeg. Okay, weekend recap. Let's start with Carolina. Carolina played 2 games this weekend, and they won both. They took out Chicago 5-3, high-scoring game on the Friday night, and then they shut out Tampa Bay 4-0 on Saturday. And that's not an easy thing to do, shut out the Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay. That also put themselves in the top spot in the Central Division. Carolina's rolling right now. Offensively talented, defensively great, and they're doing all this without their starting goalie, Peter Mrazek. You have James Reimer and Alex Nedeljkovic. I screwed that name up, but those guys filling in for Peter Mrazek. Carolina's a force. Watch out for them in the playoffs. Florida, Detroit, they played twice this weekend, and they split those games. Florida not getting the job done. After beating Detroit 7-2 on Friday, couldn't find their offense. I guess they used it all on the Friday. They ended up losing the second game 2-1 to Detroit. Detroit, obviously a bit of a bottom feeder team, but, you know, it's nice to see them win a couple games. Florida could have capitalized, though, and had they have won both games, they'd be the top spot over Carolina. Unfortunately, they couldn't. They are sitting in the number 2 spot. Florida's looking like they're going to be a playoff team, high-scoring team. Bobrovsky, I don't know. We'll see what happens with him, but Chris Driedger, their backup's doing just as well. Detroit, last place in the division. We're not expecting much of them. I'll probably start cutting teams from playoffs, do one a week, something like that. Detroit, you're going to be one of the first ones to get the cut. I kind of mentioned Calgary and Edmonton. Yeah, I did. Calgary-Edmonton, they played 2 games, Friday night, Saturday night. Edmonton took both, 2-1, 7-1. Calgary not getting any offense, just 2 goals in those 2 games, and Edmonton putting up 9. Anytime you got to play McDavid and Draisaitl, it's not a fun time. The Battle of Alberta is turning into something fun to watch, you know? But on the other side of Canada, you have Winnipeg versus Vancouver. They also played 2 games, the little North Division back-to-backs. Winnipeg swept them, though. They won 2-0, and then they won 4-3 on the Sunday night in overtime. What to say? Vancouver's really disappointing this year. They're not competing in the North. They're not going to make playoffs. They are the coldest team in the NHL. Just 2 wins in their last 11 games. I don't know. Not getting it done. Their guys are producing points, but they're letting in too many goals. Their goalies aren't giving it to them each night. Braden Holtby's probably not that good. Thatcher Demko, I don't know. He's pretty decent, but maybe they're not starting goalies, and Vancouver's struggling right now. Sucks to see, but Winnipeg getting the job done. Hellebuck, I think he's undefeated, or maybe has 1 loss in his career against Vancouver, so Vancouver needs to turn things around or they're going to get left in the dust. Alright, who else played twice? New Jersey. New Jersey lost 2 games this weekend, but hard-fought games. I got to give it to New Jersey. They look a lot better. They did lose both games this weekend. They lost 3-2 to Buffalo, and it wasn't really a close game. Buffalo was up 3-0 when New Jersey kind of fought back, made it a 1-goal game, but couldn't get that 3rd goal. And then they blew the lead on Sunday. They had a nice afternoon game against Washington, and they were holding the lead most of the game, and then 3rd period came around, and Washington showed you why they're a cup contender. New Jersey isn't. They fired off a couple goals and ended up winning the game 4-3. I gotta say, Jack Hughes looks unreal, and Mackenzie Blackwood, he's a solid goalie. So I'm not worried about New Jersey. I think their expectations aren't to be a playoff team. They do look good. They scare me every night. I think they can compete in that division, and it shows you they're playing in these 1-goal games. They can kind of compete with any team. So it's nice to see. Another team that played twice, Montreal. I brought up Montreal-Toronto, that good rivalry. Really quite the battles this year, because Montreal was looking like the best team in the North. They don't look like that anymore. Toronto is the best team in the North. Sorry, Montreal. You're good, but you're not Toronto good. Toronto did crush them, kinda crushed them. It was 5-3 final score. The 3rd goal came real late. It was with 1.5 minutes left, so really it's more of a 5-2 game. Toronto defensive lapse. Both Montreal's goals were breakaways. Kind of can't give up too many breakaways, especially if Frederik Andersen's not stopping a bunch of pucks. But Montreal slowly losing that edge in the North Division. They were leading at the start of the year. Toronto's taken over that spot, and these head-to-head games are real important. But when you can't beat Toronto, you gotta follow up with a win against Ottawa the next night, and they couldn't do that either. Ottawa came back from behind twice, I think, and Ottawa ended up winning the game 3-2. Ottawa's the worst team in the NHL. Maybe Detroit, but when you're in the North Division, you have to take advantage of these Ottawa games. If you're going to play them 10 times, you need to win 8, or you need to win 7, because other teams are going to win 8 or 7 games, and if you want to be a playoff team, take advantage of Ottawa. Some other teams that played just one game, San Jose, St. Louis, they had a nice high-scoring affair on Saturday. San Jose ended up taking it 5-4. And St. Louis was never really in the game. I did watch a bit of this game. San Jose went up 2-0 on 2 terrible turnovers in their own zone that led to San Jose goals. And then they just kept battling back. Finally, it's 4-4, and then San Jose pops the 5th goal, and that was it, San Jose, they're battling. They're not great, but I think they're on a little 4-game win streak. LA played Arizona. That game was 4-2. LA's good. Arizona, solid defensive team. I don't know. Anze Kopitar and company, Alex Iafallo, they're getting it done. Night in and night out, they're putting up points, and LA's battling with just about everyone this year. Nashville. Columbus went at it. Nashville just dominated. It was like 40 shots to 22, something like that. They outshot them by 15 plus shots, and Nashville went up 4-2. Elvis, great goalie. He let in this weird one where he lost his stick. Puck just goes over him. I don't know what was happening, but anyways, yeah, Nashville just, both middle of the pack teams. These games are always kind of fun. It's fun when you see a 6-goal game. 4-2 Nashville. Minnesota and Anaheim, not much of a fight. Minnesota beat Anaheim 5-1 on Saturday. Anaheim can't get it done. If they're not, shutting teams down to 1 or 2 goals, they're really not staying in the games because their offense cannot keep up. And then the other team I did not mention was the Rangers. Little 2 or 3 game winning streak. They beat Washington 4-1 Saturday afternoon. But some news coming from both these teams that I just mentioned, Anaheim and Washington. Anaheim, they can't score goals. However, it's Monday, and Trevor Zegras is getting called up from the AHL. Maybe he can help with those goal-scoring moves that they're going through. And on the other end, the Rangers. Some news dropped today on Monday that Artemi Panarin's dealing with some stuff in Russia. Possibly that he abused an 18-year-old back in 2011. More stuff is coming out by the hour, so I don't want to comment too much on it till I know more information. The New York Rangers and him have claimed that it's false, coming from Russia. He did speak out against Putin recently, so we're just going to wait and see what more information comes out before I talk about on that anymore. But going into Monday night's games, okay? We'll tell you, we got a good slate tonight. We have 8 games. We have first game of the night, Calgary at Toronto. So I'm just going to fire through these games, give my score predictions, and then we'll get into overtime. Only got about a minute left. Calgary at Toronto. I got this game going into overtime. I think Toronto takes it. It'll be a 4-3 Toronto overtime. Dallas visiting Florida. Florida's been red hot, but Dallas has had some time off. Last time we saw them have time off at the start of the year, they came out so hot. I do think this will be a low-scoring game. I have it 3-1 for Dallas. Tampa Bay at Carolina. Tampa Bay got shut out the other night. That's not going to happen again. Not going to happen. I'll take Tampa Bay 4-3 over Carolina. Buffalo at the New York Islanders. I expect Buffalo not to score too much. Maybe the Islanders get their offense rolling. I'll go 4-2 for the New York Islanders. LA Kings at St. Louis. I think this will be a battle. Probably high scoring. I don't know who's in net. Hoping it's Cal Peterson over Jonathan Quick. But I'm going to take St. Louis either way. 5-3 St. Louis. Vegas at Colorado, going at it again. Their last 2 games have been relatively low scoring. I think this is the game where both offenses just fire at each other. I'm going to go 5-3 for Colorado. Anaheim at Arizona. Trevor Zegras. He's going to be fun to watch tonight. All right, 2 games to go. Anaheim and Arizona. Trevor Zegras, like I said, I'm going to be watching him tonight. I hope he can do something offensively, but I'm going to give Anaheim 1 goal to Arizona's 3. I'll do 3-1 Arizona. Minnesota at San Jose. Got to predict another overtime game. I'm going to do the same score as that Calgary-Toronto game. Minnesota at San Jose. I'll give it to San Jose 4-3 for San Jose in overtime. Bank it. Alright, overtime. I got some fun stuff for you guys today. We're going to do a little bit of trivia. We talked about Crosby's 1,000th game. So here's a trivia question for you today. How many players have played 1,000 games in the NHL? It's quite the milestone, but how much of a milestone is it? A, 302. B, 497. Or C, 351. I'll give you a second to think about it. Answer C, 351 players have played in that 1,000 game. Quite the accomplishment. I think we're going to see a lot more of it in today's generation. These guys are healthy. They're not smoking cigarettes. They're eating carrots, eating their veggies, eating their protein shakes. I think we'll see a lot of guys reach this milestone going forward. So I mentioned that Crosby and Travis Zajac both hit 1,000 games this weekend. What other players hit 1,000 games this year? Is it A, Shea Weber, B, Corey Perry, or C, Patrice Bergeron? If you're a Montreal fan, you probably know that it's Shea Weber. Shea Weber did hit 1,000 games on February 2nd this year. Corey Perry and Patrice Bergeron are already in that club. Last question. What is Gordie Howe's record for games played? Is it A, 1,703, B, 1,824, or C, 1,767? It's probably a guessing game unless you know the exact number. If you want to know the exact number, it's 1,767, Gordie Howe's games played record. But on that note, it probably will be broken this year. Patrick Marleau will pass him in 29 more games. So that should be passed. A record that, probably back in the day looked like a pretty hard record to pass. But Patrick Marleau is going to do it in 3 less seasons. And speaking of Patrick Marleau, he got on the board with his first goal of the year for the San Jose Sharks. And it's going to be exciting when he passes that Gordie Howe record. A lot of those records don't get broken. And Patrick Marleau should be the games played leader at the end of the year. That's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you liked the video. I got to remind you one more time. Please subscribe on the YouTube and follow along on Instagram for the shorter clips if you don't want to watch the full 20 minutes. Thanks.